So hi, I'm one of the directors here at Tyler. My name is Adam. Today we've got Tommy Edwards, one of our business development managers here.
Yeah, so I joined Tyler fairly recently, so some of the questions I had when I joined the business are likely to be fairly similar to the customers that I speak to. So often I'll come to yourself, and typically one of the main questions I'll get is people that have typically had rigid materials. What is the benefit to then move over to flexible? What does that really mean sustainability-wise for them and their business?
Okay, so that's a great question. Thanks, Tommy. So moving from rigid to flexible is has a huge environmental impact. So for example, a rigid container moving to a flexible pouch or a flat bottom pouch, you could see probably in excess of 80% reduction in the amount of raw materials you're using, right, because it's a much thinner structure compared to a rigid container. So you're kind of a really good example of that would be probably sports nutrition. Yeah. A lot of people have moved from tubs into pouches. It could be also kind of look at coffee, going from glass jars into flexible pouches. Yeah. Whether it's a refill pack, which we're seeing is becoming more and more common, or whether it's a complete transitional move to that format for the future. But they say big environmental impacts, and it's about weight reduction.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess the follow-on to that I would typically find is, yeah, we don't want the implications sustainability-wise, the issues that come with it, but will we be able to protect our product, whether that's the barrier or have it presented the way we like by transitioning? How can we guarantee the product inside isn't jeopardised or there's not going to be an issue? Shelf life and things like that. How can we maintain that?
So in terms of shelf life, again, we have different barrier options. So we have a kind of a standard barrier or we have a high barrier. So really it depends on the brand. It depends on the product being packed. So for example, if it was something like coffee, yeah, you can have that high aroma barrier, light barriers and things like that. Okay. And so the kind of flexible packaging meets those needs.
Okay. And I know, obviously from my experience with Tyler, that we're very unique and really into innovation and sustainability. What materials would we typically use? And it's something I get asked, what would we typically recommend using material-wise if someone wants a fully recyclable pouch or bag?
So again, it really depends on the product being packed, the required shelf life, but typically you'd have heard the term mono material, yeah, so or recyclable ready. So what we're trying to do here is remove mixed plastics. Yeah. So that could be like a polyester, a metallized polyester, and a polyethylene, and converting it to a only polyethylene structure. Okay. So it could be a fully polypropylene structure. So it has to be made from the same material for it to be easier to recycle. So the melt points are the same.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to follow on from that, I know polyethylene is a material we use a lot of. Mm-hmm. What would be the main difference between our TOPE compared to a standard PE?
So again, so it really depends on the pack format. So we've obviously got standard PEP bags that we've been producing for over 20 years. Yeah. And that you might see those typically in something like birdseed, fertilizers, chemicals, compost, lawn garden. Yeah. The TOPE range was developed to replicate the super premium on-shelf pack from conventional materials to a recyclable version. So we need to be able to form seals down the edges, apply zips, have easy open features, have high quality print, registered varnishes, handles in the side gusset, flat bottom format. Okay. And the TOP material, which is an advanced MDO, gives us that capability.
Okay, interesting. And I guess the other thing that always comes up is it a one size fits all? Do we have standard dimensions that we would typically recommend on a stand-up pouch, or can we be versatile to what the customer needs effectively?
Great question. In general, I would say that we everything we produce is bespoke for the customer. Therefore, we should be able to make most sizes. I think there are some limitations with flat bottom, typically on the width of the bag. Yeah. So, for example, which is based on the print sleeve size. Yeah. So, for example, you might have an inquiry for a 200 width bag. We can only make 202 millimeters. Right. So it depends on. It's really, I'd say, the limitations more on the width than anything else.
Okay. I think just to jump on that as well, in my brief experience, it's always a conversation piece, isn't it, to find a solution that's going to work for the customer, but maybe finding that middle ground that kind of brings costs down and makes production a little bit easier for them as well.
Absolutely.
And the last thing, again, that typically always pops up on the print quality and the aesthetics of the pouch when it's on shelf, Would we recommend going, and can we do matte finishes, gloss finishes? What is it? The horses for courses. What would we recommend typically, or is it a customer's preference on what we would do?
So again, I mean, my answer to that question would be it's really brand specific.
Okay.
We can produce whether it's gloss, matte, registered matte, partial combination matte and gloss, or paper. It really depends on how the brand positions themselves, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
In general, over the last probably 5 years, we've seen a huge transition from gloss to matte.
Yeah.
We're now starting to see a little bit of gloss coming back because in general on shelf there's a lot that is just matte.
Yeah.
But we're seeing a huge increase in the demand for both, so matte and gloss. So some glossy areas, some matte areas.
Okay.
And that kind of the light in the retail environment, it bounces off the bag. In the matte, it doesn't. So obviously, if you've got areas that have got high gloss, it really makes that brand or that USP jump off the shelf. Examples of that could be something like this, and you can see here that the dog is highlighted, and it kind of really jumps out.
Yeah, definitely. I think, from my experience, again, that's what people are looking for, something a little bit different, so they can get that on shelf. In terms of price, that's something that's incredibly important at the moment to not just our customers, but everyone. Have we just got high-end premium solutions, or is there something we can offer, I guess, to a whole range of different budgets and customers?
So depending on the structure and kind of, I suppose, how the product meets the customer or the consumer's demand, whether it needs resealable features and things like that, that we do have limitations. We need to use a TOPE structure.
Yeah.
So something like large format, flat bottom, registered varnishes. This is kind of more of the premium end of the market.
Yeah.
And it depends on what the kind of the retail price is, whether that would be an option or not.
Okay.
But we also do have more value options whilst remaining recyclable. This is what we call our eco bag. It's recyclable, 100% recyclable, fully certified still. Matte finish, but it's only a matte. You can't have registered mattes on it.
Okay, yeah.
Again, it's available with folded bottoms and things like that, but you can't have a resealable feature on this format.
I see, right.
But that's kind of a more, probably, a working dog food.
Yeah.
But there's some brands that would actually say, no, that's exactly what we want if they're transitioning maybe from paper to plastic.
I see. Okay, so it depends in terms of what your end cost of your product is. You can almost relate it a lot of the time back to where your packaging sits and what might be a better fit.
Absolutely. And also I think it's important to kind of consider, is the pack going to be retail or is it going to be e-commerce?
Right.
If it's e-commerce, do you need some of the premiums that you might have on shelf?
Okay. And you mentioned paper just now. I think obviously a big part of what we do is education based and trying to give people a steer on what might be the most efficient and sustainable for them. Would paper be the most sustainable option that we offer, or is it not quite as simple as that?
Unfortunately, it's not quite as simple as that. We've done a series of life cycle assessments, and the main one, we've actually done 4 now, but the main life cycle assessment we did was based on a 2 kg bag. And we took a 2 kg bag, the same size, and we did it in multiple formats. So, for example, conventional, recyclable with recycled content, recyclable with bio-based, polywoven equivalent, and also a paper equivalent. And we looked at the measuring against 7 pillars of sustainability, which was the most environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't take into account things like shelf life. But in terms of the materials used, there's no doubt plastic is more environmentally friendly than paper, predominantly due to weight, is the main reason.
Yeah.
But paper is more available to recycle currently.
Okay. I think that in itself kind of sums up, it's not black and white, there's a lot of grey areas, and it is a bit of a minefield. So we totally understand that. And from our end, if you've had similar questions than I had, but that I've kind of come up against, get in contact with us, speak to himself or the sales team or Adam, and get in contact. I'm sure we can give you some advice and a steer on what might be the best fit for you.